I've been a patrol officer for over a decade, and in that time, I've responded to just about everything you can imagine. Domestic disputes, armed robberies, missing persons, even a couple of homicide scenes. Most nights blend together after a while. But there's one call from a few years ago that never left me. It wasn't the most dangerous situation I've ever been in. No one fired a weapon, and no one got hurt. But what happened that night still sits in the back of my mind, because I can't explain it. And I've tried. At the time, I was working the midnight shift in a mid-sized town, quiet neighborhoods, mostly residential, the kind of place where most of our calls were noise complaints, or the occasional drunk driver. My partner and I had been on patrol since around 10 page. Just driving through our usual zones and keeping an eye on things. It was a little after 2 a.m. when dispatch sent out a call about a possible burglary in progress. A neighbor had reported seeing someone walking around inside a house that was supposed to be empty. The homeowners were out of town for the week, and the neighbor knew that because she had been collecting their mail. She said she saw a light turn on upstairs, and what looked like someone moving past a window. That was enough to get us moving. We pulled up a few minutes later. The house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, surrounded by tall trees and a wooden privacy fence. It was quiet, the kind of quiet you only get in residential neighborhoods in the middle of the night. No lights were on when we arrived. My partner parked the cruiser a few houses down so we wouldn't announce ourselves right away. We approached on foot, flashlights off for the moment, just using the streetlight to guide us. The front of the house looked normal. No broken windows, no forced door. The driveway was empty, but as we walked along the side of the house, we noticed the gate leading into the backyard was slightly open. Just a few inches. That was the first sign something might actually be going on. We pushed the gate open slowly and stepped into the yard. The grass was damp from the night air, and the trees behind the fence blocked most of the moonlight. It was darker back there than I expected. My partner circled toward the back door while I covered the yard. A few seconds later, he whispered, "The door's unlocked." That wasn't a good sign. We notified dispatch and requested another unit. Then, we made entry. Inside, the house was completely dark. You could smell that empty house smell right away. Stale air, no movement, nothing recently disturbed, but the furniture was all there. It looked like the owners had simply left for vacation. We moved slowly through the first floor, clearing one room at a time. Living room, clear. Dining room, clear. Kitchen, clear. Everything looked normal. No broken items, no drawers pulled out, no signs that anyone had been rummaging around. But when we reached the base of the staircase, we both stopped for a moment. From upstairs, we heard a faint sound. It was soft, almost like a creak, the kind of sound a floorboard makes when someone shifts their weight. My partner looked at me and quietly said, "You hear that?" I nodded. It definitely came from upstairs. We announced ourselves loudly. "Police department. If anyone's in the house, make yourself known." The words echoed through the hallway. No response. Another creak followed a few seconds later. That was enough to confirm someone was up there. We started up the stairs carefully, keeping our flashlights trained toward the top. The staircase opened into a short hallway with 3 doors, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. All the doors were closed, but something about the hallway immediately felt off. It's hard to explain. Just one of those instincts you get after doing the job long enough. The air felt heavier, somehow. The house had been silent downstairs, but up there, it felt like something had just been moving. We cleared the bathroom first, empty. Then, the first bedroom, also empty. The last door at the end of the hallway was slightly cracked open. My partner pushed it wider with his flashlight. The room inside was dark. "Police," he called again. Still no response. We stepped inside together. The bedroom looked like a guest room. Bed neatly made, dresser against the wall, closet door half open. But there was no one in the room. We checked the closet. Nothing. Under the bed, nothing. The window was locked from the inside. For a moment, we both just stood there, scanning the room again like we might have missed something obvious. Then, my partner said quietly, "Did you see someone move?" I turned toward him. "What?" "In the hallway," he said. "I thought someone walked past the door." I stepped back into the hallway immediately and shined my flashlight down both directions. Nothing. Just the same empty corridor. But now, I noticed something else. One of the bedroom doors we had already cleared was slightly open again. That caught my attention because I distinctly remembered closing it after we checked the room. I walked over and pushed the door open fully. The room was still empty, but the window inside was open now. Only about 6 inches, but it was definitely open. Cold air was drifting through the gap, making the curtains move slightly. I stared at it for a few seconds. "Did you open this window?" I asked my partner. No, neither of us said anything after that, because the window faced the backyard. and we were on the second floor. There was no ladder outside, no balcony, nothing someone could have used to climb down quickly. We checked outside anyway once the backup unit arrived. The ground beneath the window was soft dirt. If someone had jumped from that height, there should have been footprints, or at least some kind of disturbance. There was nothing. No marks in the dirt, no broken plants, no sign that anyone had been there at all. We spent another 20 minutes searching the house from top to bottom. Closets, attic access, crawl space, even the garage. It was completely empty. The neighbor who called insisted she had seen someone walking inside earlier, and both of us heard movement upstairs. My partner even believed he saw someone pass the bedroom doorway, but there was no sign anyone had ever been inside. Eventually, we cleared the call and secured the house. As we were walking back to the cruiser, my partner stopped and looked up at the second floor window again. The one we found open. The curtains were still moving slightly in the breeze. He just shook his head. "I swear someone was in that hallway," he said. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I felt the same way. Even now, years later, I can still picture that quiet hallway and that bedroom window slowly drifting open. Maybe someone had been there and managed to slip out somehow without leaving a trace. Maybe we both misheard the sounds in the house, but after all the calls I've worked, I trust my instincts more than that. Something was in that house that night, and whatever it was gone by the time we found the room. There are certain calls you never forget as a police officer, not the big dramatic ones people imagine, the car chases or shootouts. Those fade with time. The ones that stick are the quiet calls, the ones that don't make sense at first. For me, it happened during a night shift about 12 years ago. I still think about it whenever my phone rings late at night, because the call that started everything didn't come from a phone in someone's hand. It came from inside a house where, according to the owner, no one else was supposed to be. And the voice on the line didn't sound like it belonged to a grown man. At the time, I was 24 and had only been on the force for about 2 years. I worked in a small rural town where most nights were painfully quiet. The kind of place where the biggest crime you usually dealt with was someone stealing gas from a pump, or teenagers breaking into an abandoned building. Night shift ran from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and most officers hated it. I didn't. My wife had just had our first child, so staying awake all night had basically become normal. When the streets were empty, I'd sit in my cruiser with a coffee and listen to old radio shows while parked near the main highway, in case someone sped through town. It was boring work most nights, but boring was good. Boring meant nobody was getting hurt. The night everything happened started out just like any other, cold, quiet, and uneventful. It was just after 1:30 in the morning when the radio crackled. Unit 3, can you respond to a possible disturbance call? That was dispatch, a woman named Sandra who had been working there longer than most of the officers. I picked up the mic. Unit 3, go ahead. She paused for a second, which was unusual for her. I just received a 911 call from a residence on Pine Hollow Road. Caller said they were trapped. Trapped how? I asked. That's the strange part. The caller sounded young, like a child. They whispered that someone wouldn't let them leave. Do we have a name? No. The call disconnected before I could get one. My computer screen flashed with the address. The house was about 8 minutes from my location. Then Sandra added something that made me sit up straighter in my seat. I called the number back, she said slowly. And? The man who answered said he lives alone. Pine Hollow Road sat on the outskirts of town, surrounded by trees and farmland, the kind of place where houses were spread far apart and streetlights were practically non-existent. By the time I'd turned onto the road, fog had started settling over the fields. It was the kind that hugs the ground and swallows your headlights. The house appeared out of the darkness suddenly, a small 2-story place set back from the road. One light was on upstairs. Everything else was dark. Another cruiser was already parked in the driveway. Officer Miller had arrived a minute before me. He stepped out as I pulled up. You hear about the kid? He asked quietly. Yeah. We both looked toward the house. The front yard was overgrown and messy. Not abandoned exactly, but neglected. Old toys sat scattered near the porch. A plastic tricycle, a small basketball hoop, tipped over in the grass. Neither of us said anything for a moment. Finally, Miller muttered, "Guy told dispatch he lives alone." Rain started falling lightly as we walked up the driveway. When we knocked, it took almost 30 seconds before the door opened. The man standing there looked like he hadn't slept in days. Mid-40s, thin, nervous. His eyes kept darting past us like he expected someone else to be standing behind us. "Evening," I said. "We got a call from this address." He frowned. "What kind of call?" "A child, saying they couldn't leave." The man actually laughed. A short, uncomfortable sound. "That's impossible," he said. "I live alone. Normally, that would be the end of it. But something about the house bothered me. Even standing in the doorway, I could smell something faint. Not rotten exactly, just stale air. Like a room that hadn't been opened in a long time. "Mind if we step in for a second?" I asked. The man hesitated, just for a moment. Then he stepped aside. The inside of the house was dimly lit by a single lamp. The living room looked mostly normal. Couch, coffee table, television. But there were small things that felt off. The walls had children's drawings taped to them, crayon pictures of houses and stick figure families, and scattered around the floor were toys. Lots of them. But they were old, dusty, like they hadn't been touched in years. I picked up a stuffed rabbit from the couch. The fabric felt stiff. Miller leaned close to me and whispered, "How long did dispatch say he's lived here?" "About 6 years." The man noticed us looking around. "My niece visits sometimes," he said quickly. "That explains the toys." I nodded slowly. Then, from somewhere deeper in the house, I heard it. A faint sound, not loud, just a soft creak, like a floorboard shifting under someone's weight. I looked at Miller. He'd heard it too. "Is there anyone else here tonight?" I asked. The man shook his head immediately. "No, just me." The creak came again, this time from down a hallway. The man stepped slightly in front of us. "You don't need to check back there," he said. That's when the radio on my shoulder crackled. Sandra's voice came through. "Unit 3. We just received another call from that address." My stomach tightened. "Same number?" I asked. "Yes. And?" Her voice lowered. The caller didn't say anything this time. "What do you mean?" "They were breathing," she said. "Just breathing." The hallway suddenly felt much darker than the rest of the house. Miller slowly moved toward it. The man's voice came out sharper now. "Officers, there's nothing back there." But the floor creaked again, and this time it wasn't faint. It sounded like someone had shifted their weight right behind the last closed door at the end of the hallway. Miller placed his hand on the knob. The man rushed forward. "Wait." Too late. The door opened, and what we saw inside froze both of us in place. The room wasn't a bedroom. It was a child's room, but it looked like it had been frozen in time. Old toys, old posters, a tiny bed, and sitting on the floor in the corner was a phone. Its screen was still glowing. Miller walked over and picked it up. It wasn't a modern smartphone. It was an old flip phone, still connected to the call. But the room was empty, completely empty. We searched the entire house. Closets, attic, basement. No one else was there, just the man and that room. Eventually, we learned something disturbing about the house. Years earlier, the previous owners had a young daughter. She disappeared one night, never found. The investigation went cold. The man living there now had bought the house long after the family moved away. But when detectives questioned him, he admitted something strange. He had found that old flip phone hidden under the bed when he first moved in. The battery somehow still worked, and every once in a while it would turn on. By itself. The phone was eventually taken as evidence. I never saw it again, but Sandra told me something before the case was closed. She said during that first call, the voice didn't sound scared. It sounded calm, like someone who had been waiting a very long time to be heard. And sometimes I still wonder if we had arrived just a little earlier that night, who would have been standing in that room when the door opened? I've been a patrol officer for just over 9 years now. Most of that time has been spent working the night shift. Midnights? Midnights are where you see the strange side of things. Domestic disputes, drunk drivers, burglar alarms, welfare checks. Calls like that come in constantly. After a while, they start to blur together. You respond, separate people, calm things down, take a report, maybe make an arrest. Then move on to the next call. It's routine. You stop remembering most of them after a few weeks, but every now and then, there's a call that sticks with you. Something about it just doesn't sit right. This is one of those calls. It happened about 4 years ago, during late fall. I remember the exact time because I checked the clock on my patrol computer when the call dropped. 2:17 in the morning. Dispatch toned me out for a 911 hang-up. Normally those are nothing. A pocket dial. A kid playing with a phone. Sometimes someone accidentally hitting an emergency call on their lock screen. But dispatch said something that made it different. Before the line disconnected, the operator heard what sounded like furniture scraping across the floor. And then, a loud thud. No one spoke. Then the call ended. The address was a small 2-story house on the edge of town, in a quiet residential neighborhood, the kind of place where you mostly respond to noise complaints, or maybe the occasional medical call. Not much crime out there. I was about 6 minutes away. As I drove over, a light fog had started rolling in from the fields nearby. It wasn't thick, but enough that the streetlights had that hazy glow around them. Dispatch tried calling the number back, twice. No answer. I pulled onto the street and slowed down. Everything looked normal. The neighborhood was quiet. Porch lights off. No cars moving. Just rows of houses sitting in the dark. The house I was heading to was about halfway down the block. A single porch light was on, casting a dull yellow circle onto the driveway. One thing caught my attention immediately. The front door was open. Not wide open, but just enough that I could see darkness inside the entryway. That alone doesn't always mean something bad happened. Sometimes people forget to close doors, especially if they're expecting someone. But at 2 in the morning, after a 911 hang-up? That gets your attention. I parked across the street instead of directly in front. Habit. Sometimes people react differently when they see a patrol car pull right up to their house. I stepped out and listened for a moment. Nothing. No voices. No television. No music. Just the faint sound of wind moving through trees and the distant hum of highway traffic a few miles away. I walked up the driveway and onto the front porch. The door was still cracked open, about 3 inches. I knocked on the frame. Police department. No response. I knocked again, louder. Police? Anyone inside? Still nothing. At that point, with a 911 hang-up and an open door, I had enough reason to check the house. I pushed the door open, slowly. The first thing I noticed was how quiet it was inside. Not the normal quiet of a house at night, the kind where you can hear the refrigerator running, or a clock ticking somewhere. This was different, almost like the place had been empty for a while. My flashlight swept across the living room. Everything looked mostly normal. A couch against the wall, coffee table in front of it, a TV mounted across the room. But the coffee table had been knocked slightly sideways, and one of the couch cushions was on the floor. It wasn't dramatic, but it looked like something had shifted. Quickly, I stepped farther inside and called out again. Police department. If anyone's here, announce yourself. Nothing. I radioed dispatch. Unit 12 on scene. Open door. I'm checking the residence. Dispatch acknowledged and told me another unit was about 12 minutes out. That's the downside of covering a large area at night. Backup isn't always right around the corner. I moved slowly through the living room and into the kitchen. The kitchen light was on. That struck me as strange because the rest of the house was dark. On the counter near the sink was a cell phone. Screen still lit. Next to it sat a half-full glass of water. Someone had clearly been there recently. I checked the back door. Locked. No signs of forced entry. The hallway off the kitchen led to a small bathroom and a spare bedroom. Both were empty, but as I stepped back into the hallway, something else caught my attention. The back door to the garage was open, just a few inches. I walked over and pushed it wider. The garage was dark, except for my flashlight. There was a sedan parked inside, engine cold. But what made my stomach tighten was the tool bench along the wall. Several tools were scattered across the floor, and one drawer had been pulled all the way out. That didn't look like someone casually working. That looked rushed. I radioed dispatch again, advised the responding unit to step it up. I left the garage and went back inside. The only place left to check was upstairs. The staircase creaked under my boots as I went up. At the top was a narrow hallway with 3 doors. The first room was an office. Computer on. The chair tipped over. The second room looked like a guest bedroom. Nothing unusual there. The third door at the end of the hall was closed, but there was something on the carpet in front of it. At first I thought it was a shadow. Then I saw the shine. A small, dark stain. I crouched and touched it with my glove. Blood. Not a lot, but fresh. My heart rate picked up immediately. I unholstered my weapon and pushed the bedroom door open. The room was dimly lit by a lamp knocked onto the floor. The bed had been partially pulled away from the wall, and there were drag marks on the carpet leading toward the closet. I moved to the closet and pulled it open. Empty, but the drag marks continued across the room, toward the hallway. That didn't make sense. If someone had been dragged out of this room, where did they go? That's when I heard it. A faint sound from downstairs, like a floorboard shifting under someone's weight. I froze and listened. Another creak. Slow. Careful. Someone was definitely still inside the house. I moved back toward the staircase quietly. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness below. The kitchen was empty, but the door to the garage was now fully open. I was almost certain I had left it halfway. I moved down the stairs quickly, but carefully. The moment my boots hit the first floor, I heard movement in the garage. Metal scraping. Then the sound of something falling. I ran through the kitchen and into the garage. My flashlight swung toward the far corner, and I saw him. A man crouched near the side door that led outside. He looked straight at me for half a second. Then he bolted. He shoved the door open and ran into the backyard. I chased him across the yard and over a wooden fence. By the time I hit the alley on the other side, he had already turned the corner. I ran after him, but the fog had thickened and visibility dropped fast. Within seconds, he was gone. Backup arrived a few minutes later. We searched the area with K9 units. Nothing. Back inside the house, detectives started documenting everything. The blood upstairs belonged to the homeowner, a man in his early 40s who lived alone. There were signs he'd been injured and dragged downstairs. But here's the part that still bothers me. There was no large blood trail leaving the house, and we never found him. His wallet was on the kitchen counter. His phone was the one that called 911, but there was no sign of where he went. And the man who ran from the garage was never identified. No fingerprints in the system, no cameras nearby, no witnesses. The homeowner was officially listed as a missing person. That case is still open. Every once in a while I still drive down that street on patrol. A new family lives there now. Kids' bikes in the driveway, toys in the yard. Looks like any other normal house. But every time I pass it, I think about that night, about the phone sitting on the counter, the blood upstairs, and the man who ran out of that garage. Because whoever he was, he left without the one person who called for help. That was quite an eerie story to clean up.